Hello, welcome to the Inside View. I'm Caroline Hill, Editor-in-Chief of Legal IT Insider, and I'm here with Andrew Watts, Chief Information Officer of Relativity. Hi, Andrew.
Hi, Caroline. How are you? Nice to be here.
Yeah, thank you so much for joining us. It's nice to have you. And you've just had a busy few days. We're here to talk about Relativity Fest, which I think just finished yesterday. Is that right? It's just literally just finished.
That's right. I ran Monday through Wednesday, and it's just wrapped up a very successful few days for us here at Relativity, and hopefully for our Relativity community as well.
Okay, I should before we dive into, and I know that, online conferences are so topical at the moment. I really can't wait to talk to you about how it went. It was obviously huge, so I'm really looking forward to it. So I should just introduce you a little bit for people who don't know you, which I'm sure there are lots of people who do and lots of people who don't. So you've been at Relativity since 2016, so quite some time, and you've been in IT for 20 years. And before Relativity, you were at Morningstar. I got that right, didn't I? Morningstar, which is
right.
an investment research and management firm.
That's right. Correct. Yeah.
So,
I like to say if my career had an age, it would be 30 years old. So it's dating myself a little bit there. But yes, I spent four and a bit great years at Relativity, and before that, a decade at Morningstar.
right, interesting. So yeah, so and this Relativity was the first sort of legal role, right? Like, so
It was.
you're now obviously a sort of experienced legal sector person, but that was the first legal role.
That's right. First time working in the legal community, specifically in a company that sort of embraced everything about that. I did do a lot of work with general counsels at
Okay.
other companies and corporations, a lot of work on things that were important to them, all sorts of matters, e-discovery and other types of matters. So a lot of integration with folks in the legal community in my
Yeah.
career.
Okay. Yeah. Well, that's yeah. I mean, I suppose that sounds the different definitions are broad, but general counsel definitely counts as a legal sector.
Right, for sure.
Are they so with Relativity Fest? So tell me about it. So it was a record. I think I read that it was a record attendance this year. Is that right? Something like 6,000 plus.
It was. So the move to being a digital virtual conference obviously enabled a huge number of our customers to have more participation than they might have been able to when they send people to an overseas destination, which a lot of companies do with Relativity Fest that we hold in Chicago more traditionally. And so what we saw this year was many people take advantage of the opportunity to be able to participate in the sessions and listen in to their peers in the community, as well as our experts from our company. We had people from over 40 different countries attend. Attendance was north of 5,000 people. And we had a huge number of people who were able to attend for the first time because of the virtual nature of the conference.
That's interesting. And you made it free to attend, is that right? Did I see? So yeah.
We did. That was one of the adjustments. We started adjusting to COVID like everybody earlier in the year, and we ran a few different things leading up to Relativity Fest. So we had a little bit of practice. We had a focused event on our Australia community called Spotlight Australia right as COVID was starting. We then had our Relativity Fest London experience, at which we were able to practice something at slightly bigger scale, and then Relativity Fest this time. Obviously with another iteration, another maturity step to make it the best possible experience for our customers and the community.
It's interesting that you've got north of 5,000. So we've seen with other conferences that you get quite a lot of people registering, but actually the attendance can be much lower. So obviously you did well in terms of the number of people actually joining.
We did, and we saw our number of people who actually did attend stay very high.
How do you monitor that? So that's by, I mean, obviously they're interacting with the content. So it's the case of, I guess, you can see who's sort of like registered. I guess it's harder to track. Is it difficult or hard to track what they're actually interacting with in terms of the conference?
I think the platform investment we made, the partnership we had with our technology partners, helped us really get at all those details. I spoke just a second ago about how we progressed from our London Relativity Fest to Relativity Fest, and we learned along the way about those kinds of data and insights that we wanted. We wanted to know who, did people attend? Did they get value? We asked for feedback. We had live Q&A chats so that people could interact. And there was a mix of live and pre-recorded content that people could interact with. The other thing that's quite nice that I appreciate about it, and I think our attendees do too, is that the content will all be available for another month or so. And so people, if they had a technology problem on the day, or if they're interrupted and everybody's working from home, so there's all sorts of those types of things happening to people, they'll be able to go back, rewatch a session, watch a session they couldn't before. And unlike a real in-person event where, you might sometimes see three things you'd like to do, now you're able to go and, ultimately be in all three sessions to some extent. You may not be able to be there live, but you can certainly go back to all the content if you so wish. So there's definitely some positive benefits there for people as well.
I like that too, but I've attended a few conferences, including ILTA obviously recently, and it is great being able to revisit that content. How do you, in terms of interaction, so I think one of the most challenging things with conferences is about how you get that real participation. So you've been at Relativity for years. I've been in the legal sector for years. It's really hard to recreate that. That sort of excitement and did you do anything to try and sort of get people engaged on the social side perhaps, or how did you try to make it fun and interactive is the word that I'm looking for and failing to reach, but how did you make it interactive?
So one of the things people absolutely do love about Relativity Fest is it's a very festive event. It's called Relativity Fest. That's why, and people rave about it, frankly, for the social aspect, the networking event. And we put a lot of effort and time into our community in general throughout the whole year, and our community puts a lot of time back into our products. So we put a lot of emphasis on the opportunity to continue the networking, continue the social aspects. So we had unique virtual events. We had a top chef who did an event to cook. We had an improv workshop with the folks from Second City, which is a famous improv group here in Chicago. We had a interactive game of Cards Against Humanity, although it was rephrased Cards Against Relativity by one of our service providers, which was a lot of fun. There were all sorts of other breakout sessions. We, of course, shared more about our inclusion and diversity that we have at Relativity that we're working on in the industry. We have our different sort of tracks in that. So we released and announced information about our Justice for Change initiative in response to some of the issues going on in the world with regards to racial justice. Women of the workplace and women in e-discovery were things that we focused on. So people had a lot of different places where they could engage, whether they were interested in something like inclusion and diversity, if they just wanted to have some fun, if they wanted to see their colleagues. And of course, I have it on good authority that people did what they do at Relativity Fest and had happy hours and social hours in a more customized or kind of personally, socially set up way where people just interacted and got together just because that's what they do. Mm-hmm.
And that was impromptu. Was that something? I mean, I know you obviously did a lot. That's interesting. It's interesting. It's really, I mean, we must move on because there's lots else to discuss. But I just find that because I think, so we in the UK, we're entering something approaching lockdown again.
Right.
And I think that it's just something, we're hosting our own webinar about how to create online conferences. I think it's something as an industry that we're going to have to get our heads around, how to learn. And you obviously learn and iterated from, it's great that you got that feedback after London and, really trying hard to challenge that everyone's facing, right? And actually, I think we all miss that interaction, don't we? Really, I miss. It's like how do we create that? And I think that we'll all sort of learn together a little bit. So was there anything that surprised you in terms of things that worked from a networking perspective? Was there anything that worked particularly well that you could share for anybody listening in?
I think there's some things about virtual conferences that need to be as similar as possible to like a real in-person conference. So for example, you've got to have just great content. You've got to have things that people are showing up to see, right? So it starts with, we this year were highlighting our new Aero user experience for people, and people want to hear about that. It's a big deal for them. There's a lot that we offer in our normal conferences. For example, our judges panel that people get a huge amount of. So whether it's those types of things or it's the general content where people can learn about relativity or learn about the industry, I think you have to have that as a foundation. After that, I think as you go into a virtual environment, you do have to get creative. And I think some of what we did around that was not just try to come up with all of the ideas ourselves at Relativity, but we asked our community, we asked the folks who are attending, what's working for you? How do we keep you engaged, and so on and so forth. And I think what we heard was that it really comes down to engaging content and engaging opportunities to spend time with people who are in the community, even if it's virtual. So the idea that they're in a social event or they're doing the Top Chef thing is still an opportunity to network, still an opportunity to talk to others and get to know people. And I think people are really craving that right now, the ability to stay connected and stay engaged with one another, whether it's in a very professional topic and session or whether it's in a social setting. I think it's really important.
So you make a really good point about, so that you had the Aero UI thing was a really interesting. You obviously wove that into the content, not surprisingly. So tell us more about that. So this is something that you unveiled in August. Is that right? I think in terms of the new UI, but there's obviously some substantial amount of work that's been going on in the background, and so tell us about it.
Sure. So Aero UI is our refresh of the Relativity platform user experience. So it's the place where people put their hands on the keyboards or the mouse and they interact most with the software visually and also in their workflow. And we announced it last year at Relativity Fest 2019.
It was just unveiled.
Unveiled and released
in August.
Exactly. So we've just had a few weeks where we've gone through the release process. Our customers now have it in their hands. Our 120 Relativity One customers are all using it. And I think the way we weaved it into the conference, and this speaks to your earlier point. So what is it that people are craving? Well, they know it's going to be there. They know it's going to be a new part of their day-to-day life. And people, tend to love their technology tools these days, whether they're the consumer tools or the professional tools. So we made sure we had sessions that were unique, from the keynote with our Chief Product Officer, Chris Brown, speaking about the product and what is there and what we're going to do in future, down all the way through the stack. So we had interactive sessions with our product managers where we went deeper into the product. We had sessions where you could come to a Zoom and ask questions. You could interact with some of our product managers and say, can I do this? Is this possible? Is this how I should do this? We had hands-on labs, so we still had access for people to do their own self-paced learning. We unveiled some of our updated certifications and training that are available that now include the Aero content. And then we talked, of course, about what's on our roadmap, what's coming in future. So, you don't just release something like this and it stops there. There's a lot more to come. So we talked about things like our automated workflows, which are going to really help our customers unleash even more value from Aero UI. So I think giving people a lot of different touch points. Some people are very technical, spend a lot of time in the software all day long. Some people are thinking about it more from a commercial point of view. They might be selling the product or they might be selling the experience. And so people need different types of touch points. And we tried to weave as much of that into the conference as we could, so that people who are building their careers around relativity could really interact and learn as much as they could to feel prepared and feel great about where things are going. Last thing I would note too, we've done a lot more to work with our development partners and people who like to customize relativity. And, we spend a lot of time with software engineers being able to test and do hackathons and things like that with the new APIs. And so there was really a different kind of interaction that just about anybody who attended the conference was able to experience with Aero UI.
Okay, that's really interesting. And was there, so in terms of, so obviously Aero UI is probably the biggest bit of news, although, as you say, it was unveiled first last year. Was there what other news came out of the conference? I know these usually, in my experience, people save a lot of, new releases and news for the conference. Was there anything else that came out of note?
I think there's a few things. Close into our product, for example, there was obviously us letting people know that we're now available in 9 geographies with our cloud product. We added our Germany and Switzerland data centers recently this year. Further away from the product specifically, but more of a program around how the product can be used, is we launched our Justice for Change
Yeah.
program. And really what we're giving our partners and customers there is free time or terabytes or user access into the Relativity One platform that they already have, and using that amount of data for causes, cases, and matters where racial justice is at play. And so customers have the ability now to tag a particular matter as being one that falls under this category. And we believe it's going to empower our community to tackle these types of issues where they're doing pro bono work, or where they're working with their customers to solve some of these problems in the world right now, because there just seems to unfortunately be so many of them that are out there. So there's a few things like that, and we definitely are big on giving back to our local communities at the different places where Relativity does business, and also very much so in giving back to the world through the bigger Relativity customer community, because there's so many of those organizations who do such great work with us and on their own merits.
Yeah. Is that something that you do, presumably each Relativity Fest in person? You do you unveil each year a different sort of worth, project of worth, as it effectively?
There is definitely a track record that is building. Last year we announced Relativity Fellows, which is a program that's now been running for approximately the last 12 months after we unveiled it. And that is a group of folks from underprivileged or underserved communities, which we are now training on a 12-month program on the Relativity platform. And the program essentially guarantees them full-time employment with either Relativity or with people in our community. So it could be a law firm, it could be a service provider, it could be a corporation who needs those skills. And the program is designed to take people and really just immerse them in this e-discovery world, which we're a huge advocate for, and we love our community, and get them something that helps them start a new, fresh, interesting career, and gives our customers access to a pool of talent. And I'm thrilled. I'm working with some of the Relativity Fellows as a mentor, and there's also some trainings and things like that we do internally, and it's just a great program. So we've had those two things the last few years. We've definitely had other events around the investments we've made in local schools in our communities in previous years, and so we have a nice track record of talking about what we do. We think it's important. We want to show some leadership around those things.
Yeah.
And hopefully others will be inspired to do the same thing.
Yeah, particularly at the moment when we're all sort of very far removed from one another. So did you, in terms of taking it back a little bit to the sessions, or perhaps I was interested in the awards. I actually reported on one of the awards this morning, which was Herbert Smith Freehills, which was that's something you also do every year, isn't it? But this year, I think they won your Innovative Law Firm of the Year. I might have murdered the title slightly. I haven't got it in front of me, but so that's, you've obviously been stuck to that as well, and then been handing out the awards, which I know is very popular each year.
Our innovation awards are very popular. We have a vast array of people doing such interesting things. When you build a software platform like Relativity, it's wonderful to see what people can do to extend it, customize it, build applications that can serve other needs, and so on. And so our customers have been building just phenomenal workflow products, enhancements, customizations to do very specific things inside their business or for their customers. So it was great to see Herbert Smith at Freehills win the award this year, and we have a lot more participants, and it's ever growing. We have a bigger and bigger number of people submitting their applications or their customizations or their ideas every year, and it's definitely becoming a signature part of Relativity Fest. I suppose it already is, but it's becoming an ever bigger part of Relativity Fest every year.
So for anyone who didn't see it, so Herbert Smith Freehills, I did murder the title, Best Innovation by a Law Firm, and it was for
right.
Checkmate, which is there. So you can have a look on legaltechnology.com. I won't go into it now, but so it gives you the ability to track, search, and report on historical field data. And there's actually a pretty cool video. I don't know quite how you found the time to do it, but anyway, there's a link on our site to a video that you did with the people at Herbert Smith Freehills behind it, which is cool as well, which goes into a lot more detail. So what can we expect then for next? Are you thinking about next year? Like, so you've only just put Relativity Fest to bed. So do you start planning on the basis of another virtual conference? How does it work? I mean, we're all up sort of in a slight limbo in terms of the circumstances of next year are unknown, but do you think the conferences are going to become naturally more virtual anyway? Perhaps there's going to be an increasingly virtual element, even if we manage to hopefully do some getting together in person at some point. Do you think that's the way it's going to go?
I am personally and professionally a believer that so much of what has happened within the confines of COVID-19 is going to become a permanent part of how we do business. And so
Right.
for the conference itself, for me, first of all, at Relativity, the way we work is we're going to obviously get together and talk about what worked and what didn't from our perspective. We're going to look at all the feedback that we received from the people who attended and marry all that together and decide on exactly what we do. From my perspective, without having seen all that input yet, I think that what worked really well this year is so many people were able to attend and get so much value out of sessions. I saw one particular piece of feedback that said that a partner at a law firm was getting pinged by one of his junior e-discovery folks every few minutes saying, oh my God, I went to this session and I went to this session, I went to this session, because this particular person was not usually someone who necessarily, like I said, got the airline ticket and the hotel ticket to come to Relativity Fest and was just thrilled to be able to learn so much about relativity and build their career around it. If you think about that, first of all, we're certainly not going to want to take that away from people. We're going to want to give people more of it. And I think that a blended conference where there's an in-person, kind of core place that we go and a set of events that looks like it did pre-COVID, with around that the opportunity for people to attend virtually, I think the power of both of those things brought together would be incredible for us all. I think then the people who can afford the travel, or the people who want to be in person for their reasons, can do that. The people who only have the time to do a few sessions and do it virtually can do that. Or the people who want just to take advantage of staying home and looking after their kids while they attend some conferences over the course of a month after the conferences happen can do that. So there's a whole lot of advantages, I think, that will bring to bear on this. I think it remains to be seen how many companies do that in general, but I certainly think at Relativity, we're going to take advantage of every way we can to grow our community and help our community get access to all the great content, all the materials, all the information they were able to hopefully learn to do what they do. And that's what it's all about. It's about empowering everybody to use our product and software to solve big problems in the world. So why would you not want to let everybody have access to all of that?
So just quickly, last last minute, what was your favorite session? So and then I was actually given in advance of this fun facts about you, which I haven't revealed. Which maybe I should just quickly do the fun fact.
Sure.
In our last 2 minutes. I love this. I needed my own PR person. So started using a computer when you were 8, learned how to program because your parents wouldn't buy more games. Is Australian, tried to escape Chicago's winter every January or February. Your accent's very mild, isn't it?
It is. I've been here 18 years now, and so my accent is hybridized into a Chicago, Sydney accent. It's very strange. So,
favorite session.
My favorite session every year is the judges panel. I have been now in this industry for 4+ years, and I'm still learning about the law. And I find it absolutely fascinating to listen to people who are esteemed like they are in their careers, but can pass really practical information to everybody in the audience about how to tackle these technology, data, information governance issues.
Yeah.
It's fascinating. And of course, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention, of course, the sessions that I was either hosting or participated in with some of our
Cool.
customers. Those were a lot of fun. We do a lot of those, and we have an interactive session with customers all the time, and our
Yeah.
customers' stories are the best ones out there.
Well, I think with the current market as it is, with litigation on the rise, e-discovery is going to be coming very much to the fore. Not that it ever isn't, but I think that certainly on a Legal IT Insider, I'm already noticing that we are writing more stories about litigation
Sure.
and data sprawl. Obviously, with everyone working remotely, obviously there's huge challenges around communication. So yeah, so I look forward to keeping in touch with you, and maybe you can come onto our webinar talking about how to manage an online conference going forward.
Would love to, Carolyn. Thank you so
Thank
much
you.
for having
Thanks,
me. This
Andrew.
was great.
Thank you. Nice talking to you.
Nice talking to you too. Thanks so much.
Bye.
Bye-bye.